Here's the statement. This week was dedicated to celebrating and amplifying Asia, Caitlin, DeJounte, and Nafisi for their hard work and truly exceptional performances all season long. Of entitled, coddled, pampered. How dare someone ask Honey DeJounte a question?
The recent statement from the WNBA, directed at Christine Brennan, has ignited important discussions about media ethics and the treatment of athletes, especially women of color.
Looking like this to a basketball game. And if you can't see, it says ban nails. And she has long, fake nails on her fingers, mocking DeJounte Carrington. DeJounte Carrington, who plays for the Connecticut Sun, who was interrogated all week because when she swiped for the ball, she hit Caitlin Clark in the eye.
Racism has been impacting the WNBA well before this year. This is not a new thing. Sure. This is, and in that way, I do think Caitlin's being used as a pawn. Mm-hmm. Caitlin didn't bring racism to the WNBA. This has been happening. And that, I think, is what's been such a shock for all of us, that other people are surprised by this. We've been trying to tell you. And once again, for so long, as a player, I would almost joke. I'd be like, I would have loved.
Racism has long been an issue within the WNBA, and it's something that has affected players well before this year, Sue Bird said in a recent interview, addressing the ongoing challenges the league has faced. She emphasized that Caitlin Clark, often at the center of media attention, is being used as a pawn in these conversations, but is not responsible for bringing racism to the WNBA. Bird's comments underscore a deeper problem that has existed for years: racism and bias in sports coverage and public perception.
Hateful comments and threats, those aren't fans, those are trolls, and it's a real disservice to the people in our league, the organization, the WNBA. But there are a lot of really good fans, whether they've been fans for 20 plus years or whether they're new fans in our league. I think continuing to uplift this league in a very positive light is the best thing that we can do, because there are so many great players, there's so many great teams, there are so many positive storylines that can be written and celebrated. And for me, that's why I became a fan of this league, is these people were my idols. I grew up wanting to be like them. So I think continuing to uplift and represent this league in a positive way is the best thing that we can do.
Between Caitlin Clark's Indiana Fever and the Connecticut Sun, where an intense moment between DeJounte Carrington and a star sports journalist sparked a conversation that's rippling through the WNBA. Last week, in the heat of an intense playoff series between the Connecticut Sun and Caitlin Clark's Indiana Fever, things took a dramatic turn when guard DeJounte Carrington found herself at the center of a media firestorm. During a high-stakes game, Carrington, while aggressively going for the ball, inadvertently hit Clark in the face, leaving the rising WNBA star with a black eye. But it wasn't just the play itself that sparked headlines, it was the confrontation that followed. Reporters swarmed Carrington after the game, and USA Today columnist Christine Brennan didn't hold back. Brennan's questions accusing Carrington of intentionally hitting Clark, and even laughing about it later, set off a tense and uncomfortable exchange. What started as a post-game interview exploded into a conversation about race, media ethics, and the pressures WNBA players face both on and off the court. This moment has ignited a firestorm, forcing the basketball world to take a closer look at how athletes, especially women of color, are treated by the media. Christine Brennan pressed Carrington, asking if the hit on Clark was intentional. Carrington, clearly taken aback, firmly stated that it was an accident. But Brennan didn't stop there. She followed up, questioning if Carrington had laughed about it later in the game. The tension in the room escalated as Carrington, visibly uneasy, doubled down on her earlier statement, insisting she didn't even realize she had hit Clark. The atmosphere grew increasingly charged as the exchange highlighted not just the play on the court, but the deeper pressures these athletes face under the media's scrutiny. Things didn't settle down quietly. Connecticut Sun star DeWanna Bonner wasn't about to let the issue slide. She confronted Christine Brennan, challenging the tone and timing of the questions, highlighting the discomfort it created in the locker room. Bonner's frustration wasn't just personal, it reflected a growing tension around the league. As the WNBA playoffs heat up, so does the spotlight on the players, and not just for their on-court performances. The media frenzy surrounding Caitlin Clark's rise has led to a heightened sensitivity within the league, especially when the spotlight often narrows in on her at the expense of others. Bonner's reaction wasn't just about defending Carrington, it was a stand against a broader narrative that's been brewing for months. The breaking point came 3 days after the intense post-game confrontation. The Women's National Basketball Players Association, WNBPA, released a bold and pointed statement, calling for Christine Brennan's media credentials to be revoked. Their accusation was clear. They believed Brennan's line of questioning wasn't just provocative, but deliberately fueling a toxic narrative that was unfairly centering on Caitlin Clark while undermining the voices and mental well-being of other players. The statement, which garnered widespread support from players across the league, wasn't just a response to one incident. It reflected a deeper frustration with the media's portrayal of certain players, often at the expense of others. Bonner's confrontation with Brennan had ignited a conversation about the responsibilities of journalists in protecting players from harmful narratives, especially in a league where race and gender often shape the way athletes are perceived and treated. The WNBPA's demand also signaled a turning point in the ongoing discussion about player mental health. The added scrutiny and harassment, particularly toward Black players, has been a growing concern, with many athletes speaking out about the impact of social media vitriol on their well-being. The union's bold move was an attempt to protect its players, demanding a more thoughtful and responsible approach from the media in covering these high-stakes moments. Brennan, however, stood by her actions, arguing that tough questions come with the territory in professional sports. But as the debate rages on, it has highlighted the fine line between accountability and harassment, forcing both the media and the league to reconsider how they navigate the stories they choose to amplify. Brennan, a pioneer in sports journalism, stood firm in defense of her approach, labeling her line of questioning as Journalism 101. This assertion ignited a heated debate that went beyond just her tactics. It forced a deeper reflection on whether she was out of touch with the modern landscape of sports coverage. Critics quickly pointed out that her intense focus on Caitlin Clark seemed to eclipse the impressive contributions of the entire league, raising questions about the potential consequences of her reporting. Many speculated that Brennan was pushing a narrative that elevated one star at the expense of others, particularly in a league that thrives on diversity and the collective brilliance of its athletes. The situation unfolded. Players and coaches refused to stay silent. They began to voice their frustrations, calling for more balanced and respectful media coverage that doesn't place unnecessary mental and emotional strain on athletes. The stakes are high during playoff season, and the pressure can be overwhelming. Connecticut Sun head coach Stephanie White emphasized the importance of keeping the focus on the game itself, rather than sensationalized narratives that generate controversy off the court. She articulated the need for the media to prioritize the athlete's well-being, urging a shift toward responsible coverage that honors the hard work and dedication of all players involved. Players across the league echoed these sentiments, highlighting their desire for a media environment that recognizes their efforts and struggles while fostering a sense of unity rather than division. They stressed that every player has a story worth telling, and that these narratives should be celebrated collectively rather than through the lens of competition or rivalry. The players' and coaches' responses underscore the urgent need for a more thoughtful approach to sports journalism, one that respects the athletes as multifaceted individuals and acknowledges the broader context of their experiences on and off the court. Terry Jackson, executive director of the Women's National Basketball Players Association, echoed the concerns in an emotional response. She highlighted her frustration over how the media handles players, especially in light of the increased online hostility many athletes endure. "Our players deserve better," Jackson said. "They deserve to be covered with the respect and integrity that mirrors their excellence on the court. Instead, they're subjected to a lens that magnifies controversy and diminishes their humanity. As we move forward, let's commit to championing equitable coverage that honors the resilience and talent of every athlete, ensuring they are celebrated not just for their individual successes, but also as vital contributors to a rich and diverse sports landscape. Thanks for tuning in and joining this important discussion. The intersection of race, gender, and media coverage in sports is a topic that deserves our attention, and your voices matter. Remember, whether you're a player, a fan, or just someone passionate about sports, we can all contribute to creating a more respectful and inclusive environment. Until next time, stay engaged, stay informed, and keep celebrating the game we love.